Hello, my name's Tim Shoebridge. Welcome to this video. This is not going to be one of my kind of more traditional, very long reviews of equipment. It's going to be quite short, a bit more of a sort of informal chat, if you will. I'm going to be talking about this piece of equipment here. This is the Waldorf KB37. It's a eurorack enclosure, basically, but it's also got a dedicated MIDI controller keyboard in it. It's got some performance controls over here. It's got an arpeggiator built in, and it's got some modular ins and outs on it for hooking up to your gear that you place inside. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit in this video. It's a piece of equipment that I've had my eye on for a very long time. As a keyboard player, I'm really sort of drawn to the idea of a sort of self-contained synthesizer looking piece of equipment that I can drop some modules in and sort of play it as a self-contained instrument. I really like that idea. But the one thing that's always put me off is the price of it. It's always been a very premium price, something like, I don't know, 600 UK pounds. It's just a lot of money for what basically is a eurorack enclosure and a dedicated MIDI controller keyboard. So here it is in my studio now. I bought it used off a certain auction website. Why do we say that? Why don't we just say eBay? I bought it on eBay, and it's in not bad condition. It's clearly used. It's got some scuffs on it, but it's in full working condition. And I have to say, having had it for the last few days, I'm really very impressed with it. And I think that, you know, if there'd been a music store anywhere near me where I could have gone along there and taken a look at it and tried it out, I would have probably bought it for its full price. But it's only now that I've got it and used it that I'm really kind of appreciating it. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to talk about this KB37 in a little bit more detail, but not too much. And I'm also going to have a little chat about the modules that I've got in this instrument right here. As you can see, these are the Behringer remakes of the classic System 100M. Now, I've never had a System 100M. I can't tell you whether these sound the same as the real thing. I'm not going to go into them in too much detail. Maybe that'll be a different video for another day. But I'll have a little bit of a chat about those as well, and how they are working inside this KB37. So that's what's coming up in this video. I really do hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you very much for watching. Now, the reason I thought it would be interesting to hook up the Waldorf KB37 with these Behringer modules is because the System 100M basically has got two of everything. It's got two oscillators, two filters, two amplifiers, two envelope generators, and two LFOs. So it really kind of lends itself to playing those modules duophonically, and that's what the Waldorf KB37 supports. It does support mono and duophonic playing. It's got a MIDI keyboard. On the back of the unit there's a MIDI in, out and through, but it's also got built into it its own MIDI to CV converter, and that MIDI to CV converter does support duophonic playing. So up there on the top left you'll see the red and white cables. That is the CV and gate out from the keyboard so that you can play your eurorack modules monophonically. And you'll see that there is a yellow light flashing at the moment. That's because I've configured this output to be a second CV out for any second note that I play. So I'll just show you that. There's the first one, and there's the second one. And I'll go into how I've patched these modules in a second, so give you a bit more idea about how I'm doing this. But it's playing duophonically. Now if I don't want to play duophonically and I just want to play monophonically, then I can turn that yellow flashing light off, and then those sort of CV outs that you see down there on that panel, they're all configurable. You can basically send the synth a MIDI control message and get it to learn that control message, and then that message will then be available as a control voltage out of those different outputs there. So it's really quite flexible in terms of how it interprets MIDI. It's quite a powerful MIDI to CV converter that's inside this little box. So talking of MIDI to CV conversion, let's just talk a little bit about this little panel here of performance controls. So we've got a mod wheel, and we've got a very convenient output CV out for the mod wheel right there, so that we can then use that to modulate whatever we like. So what I've got going on here is I've got it modulating the filter cutoff. We've got a pitch bend wheel, which is very configurable in terms of its range. We've got a glide control. We've got octave shift up and down here, so we've got plus and minus 2. Very handy on the front panel there. And we've got an arpeggiator, and that's what these two buttons and this control are for. So if I hold it down, it latches, because I'm only doing this with one hand, as you've noticed. So you've got all sorts of controls over how many octaves it spans, whether it's up or down or up and down. This is the tempo. Yeah, so you can have up and down, random, or in whatever order you played the notes in. And it's very easy to configure it. I don't know if you can see here, but on there's a legend just above the keys. And what I can do is just hold the setup button and then press a key. Let's just change it to going down. Let's change it to random. And then here we can sort of span 1 octave, 2, 3 or 4. Let's just go within 1. So it's a nice little arpeggiator, and it's really easy to just play around with it and configure it. One more really nice feature about the KB37 is the way it handles audio outputs. Now on the back panel there are 2 1/4-inch jacks. That's a stereo output, basically, left and right channels. And what they provided here very conveniently on the front are 2 inputs. So I can take 2 audio outputs from my eurorack gear, plug them into here like I've got here, and I'm supplying audio to the left and right channels. Obviously the amplifier in here is expecting eurorack levels, and it's got a little volume control here. And there's a separate little amplifier for feeding a headphone jack on the front panel with its own little volume control, which is really, really nice. Okay, so let me just show you very quickly how I set up this patch. It's a very vanilla patch. It's just really sort of like using the modules in a very traditional kind of duophonic synth kind of way. It's not doing anything clever at all. But let me just strip out what I've got here, and then hopefully I'll be able to put it back together again afterwards. Let's remove some of these cables and we'll get down to the basics. Okay, and let's remove those as well. Just move them out of the way. So basically what we've got is we've got over here one gate and two CVs, because that's the sort of duophonic nature of what we're doing here. We can drive two different pitches at the same time, but we've only got one gate to be able to trigger our envelopes with. So what I've got here is I've got the two CV outs going into both of my VCOs here, into the first sort of mod slot, to drive the pitch of those two VCOs. Then in terms of audio path, my VCOs are then going straight into the VCFs, and then from the VCFs straight out into the VCAs. And then I had cables coming out of my VCAs and going into sort of the output amplifier of the KB37, and I'll put those back in a minute, but at the moment they'll get in the way. So that's the signal path, and in terms of the gate, the single gate, it's this one here, and I need that gate to trigger both of the envelopes in this 140 module here. So I've got it going into a multiple, and then I've got these two little black cables coming out of the multiple and gating each of the envelopes. Now in terms of the outputs from the envelopes, that's what these four cables are here, and what I've chosen to do is take envelope number 1 and use it as an amplitude envelope, and I'm going to then put it into my VCAs. So it's going to be basically giving an envelope to the amplitude, and then envelope number 2, slightly longer cables, I'm going to use those to modulate the VCFs. So envelope number 1 is my amplitude envelope, and envelope number 2 is my filter envelope. So let's now put the outputs back in. So I'm going to come from each of my VCAs to the outputs over here, like that. Without doing anything more, hopefully we should hear something. So what we've got here is actually one VCO, VCF and VCA per channel of the audio channels, that is. So we've got a really true, 100% true stereo synth right now. One note with its VCF will be going to the left channel and the other one to the right channel. So if I change these filters, you'll hear them affecting different channels in the stereo field. The other cables that I had added were to give some extra modulations. So I have got the mod wheel here. It's got CV out is here exposed, and what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to go to a mult with it. Let's pick the one at the bottom, and then from that mult I'm going to then modulate both of the filters as well, because you've got 3 CV inputs on these modules for modulation purposes. So as well as modulating them, the filters via the envelopes, I'm going to also be modulating via the mod wheel as well. Let's do it like that. In fact, let's put it into these ones where I've actually already set the attenuators. And then the final 2 cables were to utilize the 2 LFOs here. So I'll just take the outputs from these LFOs and I thought I would modulate the pitch of the oscillators, give it a little bit of vibrato, and I put them into these ones here. I've dialed back the attenuation quite a lot, so it's a subtle effect. Bit of a tuning issue, and what I found with these modules, with the oscillators in particular, the 112 module, is that the oscillators take quite a long time to warm up and get to operational frequencies. You know, you can tune them and they're fine, and then as you go up and down the octave range, you'll find that they go more and more out of tune. It takes a good, I don't know, 45 minutes or even longer to get them absolutely stable. I don't know whether that's true of the original System 100M or not, but that's what I'm finding with this particular 112 module from Behringer.